Owl Nation! What a day here it is in Owl Nation. Your FAU Owls dominate
Huge W.
UAB. Blake, how are we feeling?
Yo, feeling great. Offense looked fantastic tonight. Caden Shields Dutton, I said it in my preview. He was going to be the guy to look out for this week in that entire running back room. And my guy stepped up with 3 tutties. Come on now. Hey, great win for the Owls. Defensively, I am even more scared than I was previously because 30 points to UAB. I don't love that. Don't love that. But overall good win. Happy for the Owls to get a nice W. And yeah, excited for the rest of the season to come.
And we'll get into some of the concerns later. But for the most part, throughout the first quarter, we held UAB to a shutout. And for the first quarter and a half, UAB had 0 points. 2 drives at the end of the first let them in the end zone there. Jalen Nita was able to get comfortable. He was able to roll outside the pocket, which is what he did on every play. But how about Caden Velkamp? Another banger from him. 3 touchdowns through the air. 19 for 29, 280 yards, Blake. How are we feeling? Is this the best quarterback in the conference? Is he better than Byron Brown?
I can't go as far as say Byron Brown. Byron Brown has done it against some really good teams. Caden Velkamp hasn't done it against two of the 2 best FAU opponents, Maryland and Memphis. But yeah, Velkamp looked great tonight. The 1 interception, obviously turning the ball over was a big thing and a little bit of a concern going into the season. But I think that 1 interception will be okay. Love to see Assad Wasim getting 105 yards and a touchdown. CJ DeGette Jr. finally steps up with 2 sacks. Yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with this. Caden Velkamp looked fantastic tonight. I think this FAU offense is in good hands when he's on the field. He's just able to do so much. Like, he is quite literally. I think if we can develop Velkamp correctly, he can turn into one of the next Josh Allen just because of his frame, his arm ability. The one thing, it's honestly the same issue with Josh Allen. You saw it early in his career. It was the accuracy. If that improves with Velkamp, the sky's the limit. But overall, I can't think highly enough about this. You get back to 500, a big dominant win over UAB, and rest of the season, you're coming in hot. You're 2-1 in the conference. Got an opportunity to maybe run the table and do some wild things and put the nation on notice. The Owls are moving up.
Blake, the Josh Allen comparison is definitely a hot take for sure, just due to the fact that Caden Velkamp, he's at FAU right now, but Josh Allen did start at Wyoming, and I agree with the frame. 6'6", he uses his legs. We've seen him escape the pocket throughout the last couple games. I like how you mentioned CJ Doggett, someone we thought was going to be huge on the interior defensive line before the season. He steps up, but Bryce Langston is now hurt, and he may be out for the season. We saw him go down there early in the first half. How big of a loss is that? We're going to need to see, some of the other guys on the D-line and Sledge, Wilkie, and Nod step up. But if Bryce Langston is out, is that a huge loss for FAU, Blake?
Yeah, I think any injury to a starter is a huge loss, but I do think overall that D-line room is pretty deep. It's good to see, and obviously good to see DeGette finally step up a big transfer. Excuse me, sorry guys. But yeah, that D-line group, I think it's pretty solid overall. Hate to see Langston go down with how well he was playing early in the season. But I do think the depth should hopefully be able to kind of make up for the loss. But obviously you can't replace the impact that guy has on the football field. He's a great leader for the Owls, a great force on that defensive line. But hopefully the other guys can step up, and he'll definitely still be around the team, able to help out in that sort of capacity. You hope to get him back. Hopefully, he doesn't go down for the season, but obviously get well soon, Bryce. We hope to have you back on the field.
Yeah, Blake, and we got 50 people in here, so let's check out the live chat. We got Tyler at Tyler101 saying, what is the live score? It is currently 50-33, 4 minutes left in the game. We are recording this early because we want to get the live show out before the coaches and players come to the press room. We got another chat here from Dinosaur Gator saying, "Is the game over, fellas?" No, there are still 4 minutes and 54 seconds left in tonight's game. Third quarter went by pretty quick. Fourth quarter going a little bit slow, Blake. But the receiving game, let's talk about some of these receivers. Easton Messer, he did have his most quiet day, but man, was Assad Wasim good today. Starting out on the first drive, just taking himself with the yards after catch. You can't tackle him. He's so shifty and crafty, and when he gets in space, there's no getting him down. We did see a touchdown from Dom Henry and Jaysean Platt, and it's the fact that Caden Velkamp has so many weapons that makes him be able to move the offense downfield and score points. What is your overall takeaway from just the weapons in general? We mentioned the running game with, Jamari Sands being out for the game, and as well as Xavier Terrell, but these weapons for the air are really carrying this FAU offense as well and helping Caden Velkamp a lot.
Yeah, 7 receptions for Assad Wasim, Jaysean Platt, and Dominique Henry each had 2 receptions, but also had a touchdown apiece as well. Honestly, the thing about this FAU team, there's just so many difference makers on this football field. So many guys that can catch the ball, so many guys that can make plays, and especially in open field. So it's great to see Velkamp is able to spread the ball. Messer, 3 receptions for 11 yards. I think UAB definitely wanted to focus their top corner on him because they've seen what he's done over the past couple of weeks in college football and making a great claim to be one of the best receivers in the American Conference. But that's the thing with FAU. I think we went into this going into the season that wide receiver room was going to be a huge difference maker because there's a lot of guys that can have an impact. So it's great to see Platt and Assad Wasim have a great day and Dominique Henry joining in the fun with a touchdown. One guy that I thought we were going to see more of is our tight end. Not really a lot by him today. I think UAB also was kind of focused on taking that away after they saw his impact against Rice. But yeah, overall, I think this was a great game for the FAU receiving corps. I think if this game was closer and we left a lot of our top guys in, you definitely could have seen 2 receivers over 100 yards. But super duper happy with this FAU offense overall. I mean, jumping out to a 21-0 lead in the first quarter is something that it's massive for the momentum of the game, and obviously getting up to 28-0 was huge as well. This FAU offense, if you're able to keep working like this, it's got a bright season ahead, especially going into the game that's been circled on this FAU schedule almost the whole year. It's your rivalry game up in Tampa. And you got to go in there and face a team that just dismantled North Texas, who was undefeated going into this and has beat some very talented teams. So this FAU team knows, get the win this week, and you got to bring your A game when you're going up to Raymond James.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both the points you made. They definitely did double Messer. That's why we didn't really see him get involved as much as we have in previous games for sure. But then also, Blake, the fact that we got Jabari Smith involved, we haven't seen him a lot throughout the season. That was great. Big touchdown there from him. But not only is Bryce Langston hurt on the defensive side of the ball, Derek Rogers, our top corner, also went down. And I know you mentioned, you're very concerned with this defense giving up 30 plus to UAB. Where is the concern level? Is it getting really high to the point where you don't think we're going to have a chance to contain USF's offense and that we won't be able to stop them? Or do you trust Coach Dewhurst's defensive staff that will be able to fix it? Because after tonight's game, there's 2 very big injuries on arguably your 2 best defensive players. One of them being Bryce Langston, a guy picked to go to media days, your best interior defensive lineman, him or Doggett. And then the Purdue transfer, Derek Rogers, also out. So how concerned are you with this defense?
I wouldn't go as far to say that FAU doesn't have a chance going into USF. I think that this FAU team is very, very talented. But, it's very concerning. I'm happy with the run defense, only allowed 72 yards, 250 yards in the air. Also not a great look. Look, you can't win every week letting another team score 33 points. And I know they went for 2 after every touchdown or whatever, and kicked a really late field goal. So some of the stuff, obviously, like the late field goal, that was with backups. And, you just, it's really tough to win football games if you're letting up 33 points. I understand that a lot of this stuff could have happened late in the third quarter and kind of in garbage time when FAU was already pretty much dominating the game. But you really don't love to see that. I'm concerned. I'd say if I were to put my concern level at a 1 to 10, I'd put it at a 7.5. Because I think I've seen in person how talented this FAU defense can be. You see flashes of how good this FAU defense can be, and this issue is we can't maintain it over a whole game. And that's gonna honestly be the key. To having success later in the season is playing a complete defensive game because I still don't think we've done that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe fam, you consider that, but other than that, I agree with you for the most part. When it comes to playing a full 4 quarters of great defense, we haven't seen that yet. And with 2 injuries going to carry out throughout the season, I am definitely concerned with that for sure. You mentioned the 2 sacks from CJ Doggett. That's huge, especially for the D line. And Blake, I think this defense can bounce back. It's going to be hard to stop Byron Brown in that USF offense next week. We got 75 people in here. Drop your thoughts in the live chat. We want to hear what you guys think. We'll be reacting to all comments. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. It is crazy. The viewership. Still 3 minutes left. So thank you so much for spending your Saturday night here, Blake. Um, you know, let's talk about any other concerns, any other questions you have for this team going forward.
Yeah, looking here, 3 for 10 on third down is not going to cut it most of the time. But obviously, you hit four fourth down conversions, which is absolutely huge. So that's a good bright spot for this FAU team. I would like to see them improve on third down, though. Only 5 penalties, which I think is a great stat line. Only 56 yards of penalties to UAB's 13. So that's a good job managing that part of the game. FAU has 1 turnover. UAB's zero turnovers. Obviously, I think that's more attributed to the defense than the offense. You need that defense to come up with at least 1 turnover, especially against a team like USF next week. Didn't really have time of possession, but obviously UAB's kind of held on to it later in the game, which hasn't really affected the standing much. I think we're about to get this lead 53-33. You're at the 2 minute warning at the UAB 10-yard line. So I think we're about to see a nice little field goal there to get the lead up to 20. Overall, this FAU team can be so confusing sometimes because you can see our offense just kind of struggle at certain points of the game. And at other points, it's like you're just wheeling and dealing and playing perfect football. Honestly, I think this FAU team has so much potential if they can keep playing at this high offensive level and keep control of the ball. I think we can compete with any defense in the American Conference. But it's just got to be 4 quarters of great football. I think this FAU team that needs to be what is ingrained in their head before every game. We need to play 4 full quarters, and I think I have a lot of faith in FAU to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And, we talked before the season about some of the trick plays that Coach Kelly would incorporate in the offense. And we saw one tonight, Easton Messer with a throwing touchdown to Jay-Sean Platt. That was a great trick play to get in there, when the Owls were up 14-0. UAB's defense wasn't expecting that. Great play there. And we saw Messer in some of the scrimmages get involved with a few flea flickers, and to see him do it in the game, I think that was the first of the season we've seen that. It was pretty good to see him throw. And that was a great throw, by the way, by Easton Messer. We've talked a little offense. We've talked defense. How about special teams? How do you think this FAU special teams unit did, especially with having, to stop this UAB? Because really, they didn't kick any extra points, so we can't really grade them on that. Field goals had a couple, but still, what are your thoughts on special teams tonight?
Yeah, special teams is pretty solid. I mean, Jay-Sean Platt with 119 return yards on kicks. Easton Messer, 53 yards on punt returns and only on 2 of them. So that's pretty impressive. A 31-yard punt return. That's a great way to flip the field. Logan Lupo only punted 1 time, but it was inside the 20 for 51 yards. So that's also pretty good. Yeah, special teams able to get the job done. You keep getting those little extra yards on returns and keep pinning them deep with the punting game. That's obviously exactly what you want to see out of a special teams unit. I think, I remember from earlier this week, there were some Instagram posts about Cam Scadaboo, and he said something about special teams. I think they asked in a meeting, what is the key to special teams? And he was like, physicality. So I think that quote perfectly emphasized the like meaning and purpose special teams is getting physical. So I think if this FAU Owls team keeps getting physical and keeps showing grit on the special team side of the ball, that's how you become successful. Jay Sean Platt 50-yard kick return. That's how you flip the field. So overall, this FAU team can really utilize their special teams. FAU just increased their lead to 20, 53-33. But yeah, special teams, it's so important. Those punts, those kicks, those returns, a great way to get momentum.
Yeah, Blake, 100% agree with you there. Jay Sean Platt, as you mentioned, over 100 punt return yards, in Logan Lupo with that one punt, 51 yards. So great in terms of special teams, pretty good defense, very solid offensive night for the Owls. We had 102 people from Owl 46 in the chat saying thoughts on Caden Shields Dutton tonight. Yeah, we talked about him a little bit earlier in the show. Great night from him, stepping up with Jamari Sands and Xavier Terrell being injured. So love to see it from him. Maybe the Owls finally figured out the run game, which is pretty good. Blake, I want to ask you this. In 2023, in year one under Herman, we started the season 1-3. We win back-to-back games to go 3-3, just like we are right now. But then we finished the season 4-8 in 2023. Do you think that this team is different from that 2023 team? Because the schedule is only going to get harder. You're going to have to play Tulane. You're going to have to play Navy. You're going to have to play USF. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is the same team as 2023?
No, I think this team is completely different than 2023. We mentioned 2023, our quarterback goes down. Obviously it's hard to win games without a starting quarterback. You got two away games coming up at South Florida and at Navy. I think those are going to be tough games for any team to play. Uh, you know, you get your first road win in the conference last week against Rice. I think this team knows that they can go on the road and get a win. Look, um, there's I don't think FAU only wins one more game the rest of the season. I'm looking at here. I think we got Tulsa. I think we got UConn. I think East Carolina are all very winnable games, like realistically very winnable games. But those it's pretty much 3 out of 4 weeks. South Florida, Navy, and Tulane all on the road. Those are tough games. Um, I think we're not going to go 4-8. If Velkamp stays healthy, I think we have a chance against Navy. I think we have a chance to keep South Florida and Tulane close games. Um, I think we definitely will perform better than we did against Memphis, or at least the score will be better than what it was against Memphis for both of those games. This Owls team should have a new confidence. You go on the road and win. You come back home and win. 2-1 in the conference. I think you got to be feeling at least a little bit good about yourselves. You get your first home conference win under Coach Kitley. This FAU Owls team should be riding high a little bit. So I think the expectation, hopefully, if you get 3 games, if you win 3 games and make it to a bowl game, I think Boca Raton would be very happy with Coach Kitley's first season. I think, my expectations are still pretty level, I think, but, I think they could easily be exceeded.
Yeah, 100%. We talked about the ceiling for this team last week and that there still is a path to a conference championship. If you win out and North Texas loses one more game on their season, and Navy, we play them so we'd have the head-to-head. If we win out and North Texas loses one more game, we're in. Because we would have the head-to-head over USF and we would have the head-to-head over Tulane. So we're not going to see anyone else be next to us, come in that top 2, because it's going to be us in Memphis, assuming that Memphis wins out or only has one more conference loss. So technically, all you got to do is go 1-0 every week and just have North Texas lose one more game, because they do have one conference loss. We don't have the head-to-head over them because we won't be playing them. It's still possible, Blake. We're starting to have some media members fall in and move into this press box. We just had Rich Pereira. He just popped in, and then we had Christian go in. He's now out. Robbie came in. He's now out. So let's wrap this one up pretty soon. Final thoughts before we get to some of the other scores around the American Conference.
Look, very happy for the Owls. I mean, you'd love to see a home win. I imagine that locker room's going to be very, very happy. Wish I could be there, obviously. Had a family event tonight, but I would have been down there in Boca with you, JJ, because I would love to hear what those guys got to say after their first win. But, very happy with this FAU team. 50 points. You get a dub at home. This Owls team, We love seeing just great signs of growth. It's exciting for them. 47 seconds left. FAU's got the ball. Take a little knee. End this one out in victory formation. And yeah, I mean, I think there's so much potential. The run game, best running game by this FAU team all season. Caden Veldkamp looking like he's that guy. If this offense keeps doing what it's doing, and the defense is able to make a couple more stops, FAU's got a chance to do some very, very great things the rest of the way to go. But go Owls, and I'm excited to see what is next to come.
We have reached the 110 viewership mark live stream here. Again, put your thoughts down below. We will be reacting to the live chat very soon in here. But I want to, you mentioned that you aren't here, but you will be back for the Tulsa game, hopefully. So we'll see you then. Let's go over some of the scores in the American Conference. We had UTSA. They're currently destroying Rice at the half, up 38-10. And we beat Rice, so, still a win over Rice. UTSA is looking pretty solid despite the Temple loss last week. They look to have bounced back. Army up 24-7 on Charlotte. Man, Charlotte is not looking too good this year.
Yep,
0-3
that's
in
final.
conference. Then we had Navy. What a win. Navy's now 6-0 and 4-0 in the American Conference. The triple option is going to be hard to stop, but we stopped it against Rice.
Hey, what was that for?
What are your thoughts on, just those four scores before we get to the Thursday and Friday night games?
Yeah, I think a lot of them were pretty much as expected. That Temple game, they kept it pretty close over Navy. So that'll be interesting to see what that does to Navy's overall morale. After a pretty close game for them. Army over Charlotte, pretty much as expected. UTSA 38-10 at halftime over Rice, pretty much expected. And obviously, Florida Atlantic gets a W over UAB. Only let's go back and rewind. Only favored by 4.5, and we won by 20. So I'm pretty happy with that performance overall. Pretty much as expected. But next week in the American Conference, you got some big games coming up. Obviously, us versus USF. And a lot more.
Yeah, we'll get into some of those Thursday and Friday games. We're about to wrap up this show. It's been a good 25 minutes. Again, leave your thoughts below. Thank you guys so much for joining this live stream. But I want to ask you, because it's kind of on the topic, and we were talking to Tony from UAB this Thursday. He was talking about Trent Dilfer's hot seat, and that if they lose this game and then they lose to Memphis, he's probably gone after the bye week. After just getting destroyed on the road, still hasn't won a road game. Do you think Trent Dilfer is gone at this time tomorrow?
Look, we mentioned, he did mention that AD, it's the first coach he hired with his tenure. Dilford, I really don't know how you keep him at this point, but if UAB does decide to keep him, you definitely see him going at the end of the season. Maybe they keep him after Memphis, but obviously I think, if I remember correctly, they're off week 9. Let me double check that. They are. So I think after that Memphis game, you could easily see him getting the boot. Maybe not this week, but after week 8, I don't think Dilford is going to be able to take selfies on the sideline much longer.
Yeah, Blake, for sure. And last thoughts here. I'll bring up Tulane, East Carolina. Tulane didn't play their best game on Thursday. John Summerall was talking about it. They need to be better. They need to clean up some mistakes. But Retzlaff, their quarterback, is looking very good. That's another team on FAU schedule. So is East Carolina, and we'll see them at home. That could be a game where we're 5-6 hosting East Carolina, and it's a must-win for us to make a bowl. Then we saw the big one. South Florida going to North Texas as underdogs and upsetting them. Thoughts from those two games, Blake?
That third quarter in East Carolina, Tulane. East Carolina took a little lead there, 16-12 going into that fourth quarter. And a 16 unanswered points in that third quarter by East Carolina. So that's a pretty impressive performance there. Obviously, that North Texas USF game was close for a long time, and USF's defense started rolling. That offense started rolling as well, and they kind of pulled out way late. Tulane and USF, I think they're in the top 3 of the conference. You know, obviously, Tulane got a pretty scrappy win. USF kind of blew them out in the second half. I think those games went as expected, though. Tulane over East Carolina and South Florida over North Texas. But we'll see him in the season. I hope we can take some film from those games and, put that to use.
Yeah, Blake, 100%. We're starting to have some media come in the room, so we are going to wrap it up. Pretty successful show. 115 people live right here. Put your thoughts in the comments when we end. We will be replying to all of them. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday night with us. And it's an OWL victory, Blake. What a win. We'll be back tomorrow with a full in-depth recap. Thank you so much for tuning into the Night Owls. We'll see y'all next time. And as always, go out.
Let's go, baby.